China's leadership has just concluded two high-profile meetings, which are the Central Economic Work Conference and the Central Financial Work Conference. So I wanted to get started with the opportunities provided by China's new round of opening up, as well as the remaining challenges and difficulties. 魏部长，想问您怎么看中国新一轮高水平开放给各国企业和世界经济带来的机遇？
应该说，中国这一次的高水平的对外开放。给全球带来的机遇是巨大的。举个非洲的例子，有一个叫科特迪瓦以前叫象牙海岸，它盛产咖啡，他的部长跟我说，只要中国人一人喝一杯咖啡，那么他的国家的咖啡产量就要成倍的增长，都不愁销路。这是一个，我们是商品的日用品的消费，但是我们紧接着我们生产性的消费还更大。包括我们的芯片，包括我们的数字经济，包括我们的大型的一些机械设备和技术，所以中国的新一轮的开放给全球带来了最大的机遇。目前来看，这仅仅是开始，叫小河才露尖尖角。明年中国这个市场它会发挥出更大的超大规模的这个市场吸引力，对全球会有更大的开放的吸引度，所以应该说全球的经济的主要的引进和下一步投资的热土就在中国。
想请您谈谈挑战的部分呢？我们高水平开放下一步的难点重点是什么？
下一步的中国的改革开放的最大的挑战是制度型的开放，最硬的骨头要啃的是金融系统的改革。因为前一段时间我们加入 WTO， 那么我们过去那种传统的以商品和要素流通型的开放，也应该说还存在，但是也不适应当前中国新的经济发展和新的格局的需要。那时候我们只是把生产要素，包括我们所说的土地、资本、技术、信息、人力等等，只是把它配合起来，但是没有做到最佳的配置。而制度型的开放，那就是从制度上面把现在从国际上面的规则、规章以及一些法律法规不合的，我们要进行修改，我们要进行补充完善，实在不行的我们就取消。想当初我们在加入 WTO 的时候，我们修改了多少文件？我们对 WTO 的承诺，那时候要求我们尽快的降低关税，我们到2022年，我们整个关税就降到了7.4%。这个是很不容易的，因为这种降额使中国得到的收获是成为世界的工厂。所以这一次我们必须从制度型上面要红利。那么制度型的改革就是从规制规章规制、标准和管理入手。所以这一块我觉得我们应该下大功夫，我们已经开始了。再比如说我们看病，我们现在没法请外国的医生到中国来，我们只能在海南的乐城搞一些试点，还有更重要的，我们有药品，我们在国外通过的 FTI 的临床试验的药品，但是中国来还要重新药品登记，还要进行重新的临床试验，时间很长，我们就差远。我们需要加大改革。我认为未来的中国的改革也是个长期的，但是它会凸显我们中国这个市场超大市场的规模，也凸显中国这个扩大的门这个开放的大门越来越大。所以明年的中国经济，我相信一定比今年更好。今年不仅能够完成我们的 GDP 目标，而且明年会在此基础上达到6%左右的我们 GDP 这种连续增长的这种高质量的发展。
那想请问您在金融的制度性开放里面，这个重点和难啃的硬骨头在哪儿呢？
我认为最主要的就是当前要把 中央经济工作金融工作会议所讲的，包括互联网支付，尽快的搭建我们互联网这个平台，把我们的整个的有关资本向下的开放等等这些都要进行研究。所以一系列的这个难题，包括人民币的国际化，所以这些是我想都有的是已经进行了，有些需要加快促使我们金融业在未来能够有更大的开放。
金融业如果更大的开放，对中国的经济和世界来说有什么意义呢？
因为金融业大家都知道是我们经济的动脉，它充满活力以后，那么整个市场就充满了活力，流通的快，那么大家对市场的预期就高，对市场的预期又高，那么整个市场的经济活动就越来越旺盛，那么这个市场就会呈现出一种非常良性的全生产要素的高效率的良性的循环。这对一个中国市场来讲是难能可贵的、难得可见的一个经济繁荣快速发展时期就会到来。
So Safdar, from your perspective, how important is China financial opening up for the country itself and for Asia and for the world?
Since 2001, when China became a member of the WTO, there have been progressive steps to open up the financial sector, starting with the securities market and then the banking sector, the asset management companies, and lately the mutual trust fund companies, etc. So I think those are some steps in the right direction. I think to continue to support this opening up, there need to be steps to continue to strengthen the regulation of the sector, and there needs to be continued efforts to promote a level playing field for foreign financial institutions in line with the domestic financial institutions, and there are continued efforts are needed to, for example, address challenges relating to shadow banking in the country, some of the challenges relating to the property sector. And so I think in general we see good progress in some of these areas. And China remains vital to the economic and the financial growth prospects for Asia and Pacific. So I think to the extent that we can have continued opening up, that will benefit China as well as the Asian Pacific countries as a whole.
So Peter, what kind of breakthrough in financial opening up do you expect in the coming year?
Well, we have, of course, seen a significant opening up in terms of during the last few years in the financial sector, enabling foreign financial institutions to acquire 100% ownership of institutions, both in the banking sector as well as in the asset management and in the insurance sector as well. Nevertheless, we have seen a decreasing market share of foreign institutions in the banking sector. So while we appreciate that there is a possibility to expand into numerous product areas and also acquire 100% of an institution, we do note that there are very few foreign financial grabbing that opportunity.
What kind of financial institutions will thrive in the Chinese market, and what kinds may lag behind and even disinvest?
We know that there is an incipient asset management industry, and also on the pension side, there's a lot of opportunities, and many foreign financial institutions, not least European financial institutions, see opportunities in that sector where they have a profound and deep knowledge, and that they will be willing to contribute to the Chinese market. So I think there's opportunities there. On the environmental side, China is already advancing, but there's also much more to do. I'm thinking of transitional bonds and all kinds of financing vehicles to finance the transformation of Chinese industry into a more sustainable industry. So I think European banks in particular contribute in that process. There are other product areas where foreign institutions could make a contribution, and it also could be quite profitable for them to operate in China.
How would you evaluate on China's financial health?
In general, if you look at from where we sit, the banking sector seems fairly well capitalized. The capital adequacy ratio as of September of this year was about 14.8%, which is quite healthy. The ratio of non-performing loans, is generally low, even though, of course, the property sector related exposure of financial institutions is a challenge, and there needs to be some things need to be done about that. The fact that some of the local government financing vehicles are also severely indebted in certain provinces, and certain things need to be done to improve their overall financial health. So I think there are these challenges, in terms of further financial sector development in China. One area where we are actually quite focused on is the whole area of green finance and green development. For example, how can China increase its alignment, to international standards of its green bonds, such that it can attract greater international investment. We were talking about foreign investment. So I think this green economy and the potential for foreign investment in a country as big as China, with its huge kind of investments in renewable energy, the potential must be great.
What do you think China can do further to attract more foreign investment in this changing world?
Look, I think China, in my view, should continue to liberalize its economy. The process that it started with the WTO, I think China's call for multilateralism and its continued active participation in forums such as G20, the APEC and other multilateral forums, I think that gives the right kind of signal to the world. So I think that's a very strong signal that China can continue to give. I think secondly, if China can continue to provide a predictive policy environment, if it can ensure continuity in business policies, those are the kinds of things that I think foreign investors would always like. And I think particularly China has an opportunity to try to attract foreign direct investment in high technology sectors and in high manufacturing sectors, rather than just the low-end kind of industry spectrum. And finally, I think on the demand side, because when you invite foreign direct investment, there have to be consumers also to benefit from the production that results from foreign direct investment. So continued efforts to boost the domestic economy, to move towards higher consumption levels. This requires really, for example, continued investments in social protection systems, in pension systems.
Overall, do you think that China can maintain its financial stability in the coming year?
Yes, I think China can certainly maintain its financial stability over the coming years, particularly if it also continues to address some of the challenges that we have discussed. But for example, the property sector, the local government debt area, etc. So I think those challenges are already well known. The government seems to be taking good steps towards resolution of some of these areas.
Thank you, Sefta. Do you have anything to add, David?
Well, I think that everybody knows the biggest problem is the housing sector. I think that the Chinese government has the tools to stop the housing collapse from affecting the financial sector. But I think over the long term, these housing prices have to adjust. There's nothing more important than that. And I've seen in a lot of cities, you see that you just walk around. Most of the businesses are related to housing one way or another. They're either construction, small firms, or they're furniture, or there's decoration firms and that kind of stuff. And when new housing stops, all that stops too.
魏部长，我们有没有能力去避免陷入中等收入陷阱？
我觉得中等收入陷阱对中国来讲，不可能再掉进去，因为中国始终提倡一个中国式的现代化，提倡一个共同富裕，所以这一块我认为中国在人均达到1.2万的时候，下一步会有更大的这个力气下决心让中国在原有的经济粗放型的基础上实行高质量的经济发展。这步棋下对了，其他一些国家正是没有看到这步棋，还沉醉在那种 过去的一些出口导向型以及其他一些经济政策措施没有注重高质量的经济发展，导致了许多整个国家在中等收入陷阱里面掉进去了。
And I think, as far as China avoiding the middle income country trap is concerned, China is already approaching high income country levels. There is already a very strong and sophisticated manufacturing sector, high-tech sector. I think, like other countries, China needs to continue to focus on its total productivity levels. One sure way of avoiding these types of traps is to continue to increase your levels of productivity by continued investments in research and technology, in investments in human capital development, investments in the skills base of the labor force. I think the other area really is to try to continue to address the demographic challenge and continue to find ways of increasing labor force participation, increasing female labor force participation in particular, and find ways of increasing labor mobility. So I think these are some of the issues where China can continue to focus on, but I have very little doubt that China will be able to avoid the middle income trap. Thank you.
For next year, we also are not of the opinion that China will get caught in the middle income trap. We think there's a lot going for China, not least the dynamic ecosystems that they have in so many different industries, the high level of education and also of development in so many sectors, including IT, artificial intelligence, new energy vehicles, many of the products related to the transformation of our industry into more sustainable production. Of course, we also identify the same problematic sectors such as the real estate sector and the fairly weak consumption. But we're confident that China will undertake measures to be able to control that and surpass those problems.
I mean, there is also a hot topic that is the impact of de-risking strategy to the economy. So, Mr. Wei, 想请问您，面对脱钩断链风险，中国应该怎么办？
我觉得应该看到，世界上某些国家采用这种脱钩断链的办法来遏制中国经济发展，前段时期证明已经失效了，已经是黔驴技穷了。中国在这方面，我觉得有3大优势。第一，中国有着全球最完整的制造业的部门种类齐全，上下游密切对接一整套的这个制造业的工业，这种以集群的优势，以门类齐全、上下游结合的这种制造出来的成本是低的。第二，中国的高科技发展又不断的推动中国在数字经济、在高科技技术发展上面，同世界上已经做到你中有我，我中有你，所以世界现在如果真正的要想脱钩断链的话，最后伤害的是其他国家自己的企业。第三，中国这个庞大市场目前正在有着更大的在全球的吸引力。如果一个企业，尤其是外资企业，看不准这种市场所带来的机遇，而没有抓住这个机遇，不在这个市场建立投资建厂，或者是追加投资建厂的话，那么这是肠子都要悔青的所以说，我觉得这3点足以说明中国现在已经可以说成功的这个抵御了某些国家对中国的脱钩断链。
Yeah, I understand. So, David, what's your outlook?
I think if you look at China's real economy strengths over the long term, it has some very real strengths. As was mentioned, it has a highly diverse economy. It has some very powerful clusters that are unique in the world, clusters of industry in different locations that would be, I think, impossible to move and very hard to duplicate anywhere else. But I think there are 2 big growth engines possible over the next decade that are what China really needs to get itself out of the middle income trap. One is China has made massive investments in infrastructure everywhere. I mean, you know, if you go back and look at the literature from 20 years ago, everybody talks about, well, it's just the East Coast that is getting rich. The inland China is still dirt poor. And that's not true anymore. You got even, I mean, I pretty frequently go up into the mountains and small villages. There's 5G everywhere, at least 4G, just about everywhere. You know, there's air connections and rail connections, both passenger rail and freight rail, everywhere. And so far, a lot of that investment has just gone into improving quality of life. I mean, a lot of the rural revitalization has been to make formerly very poor people in the villages better off. The other area is that China really has the more manufacturing expertise than anywhere else in the world. And if China can apply the whole range of new technologies to making factories more efficient, that's another big driver over the next 10 years. So, I mean, the real economy is looking like it's got some really great potential is where I would be thinking.
So the potential lies in manufacturing upgrade as well as rural revitalization.
I talk to a lot of sort of Chinese entrepreneurs and stuff, and they go back to their village and, you know, they become millionaires and they employ 50 people, and that's really transformative. That either, you know, they find something to do, something I can't even imagine. So that's one of the big drivers. The other possible big driver is all the new AI technology and all the new sort of Internet of Things technologies applied to factories. China's in the best position to take advantage of those.
魏部长想看看您对于明年中国经济的展望。
应该说明年的中国经济会比今年更好。疫情过后的3·8效应，明年会大大降低。整个的消费恢复，市场繁荣，更重要的是投资活跃。最主要原因2个，一个是政策的叠加效应到明年是能够显现。第2个，我个人认为，明年虽然外部形势不好，但是对中国的商品的需求会重新得到恢复。今年11月份已经开始，中国的出口恢复了正增长，那么未来中国的进口也会恢复正增长。那么进口跟出口同时正增长。
We have recently upgraded our forecast for China's growth in 2023 to 5.2%. So we are of the view that growth will continue in a steady shape in 2024. Our current projection is about 4.5%. We will revisit this in April next year when the first quarter statistical results are out. But in general, we feel that continued efforts to expand domestic demand, particularly consumption, will be critical in maintaining this level of growth rate. The services sector is going to play a continued important role. We find that there is room for continued accommodative monetary and fiscal policies to support this growth levels.
So thank you all gentlemen for sharing your opinion. I think we've got an insightful discussion on China's financial opening up, as well as the economic and business outlook for 2024. Thank you all for sharing your insights. Thank you.